So what is the language? What is the information? What are the facts? What are the figures that would get Americans to say, you know what, my electricity company, it's okay?
Somehow people don't see how profoundly contemptuous that is of democracy. Really meaningful democracy would mean that I play a role in forming those decisions and creating those positions. And that would be real democracy.
That's not
We're very far from that.
But they exclude us as we now are.
Everything you need to make today's new natural look feathery fakes that really look real.
Perfect. Like it's been airbrushed.
Behind the paper are hidden our needs.
Why not be a blonde and see a Lady Claire all blonde?
It plays upon fear. Often the fear of not being desirable, of being unenviable. It suggests that you are inadequate as you are.
So if you'd like to win your princess, get new Vitalis for your hair.
This more, publicity persuades us, will make us in some way richer, even though we will be poorer by having spent our money.
They're walking advertisements. The whole culture is one unified field of bought, sold, market researched everything. It used to be that people fermented their own culture. You know, it took hundreds of years and it evolved over time. And that's gone in America. People now don't even have any concept that there ever was a culture outside of this thing that's created to make money.
Once a culture becomes entirely advertising friendly, it ceases to be a culture at all.
You just get disgusted after a while with humanity for not having more kind of like, you know, intellectual curiosity.
The more monotonous the present, the more the imagination must seize upon the future. The passivity of the present is then replaced, is then replaced, is then replaced, is then replaced by the activity of an imaginary future.
Now the tools have been made. The machinery has been moved into place.
Decisions over investment and production and distribution and so on are in the hands of a relatively concentrated network of major corporations and conglomerates and investment firms and so on. They are also the ones who staff the major executive positions in the government, and they're the ones who own the media, and they're the ones who have to be in a position to make the decisions.
That what we see over time is that the lineages that succeed best are those that can leave the most diverse collection of descendants.
So what you have is institutions, corporations, big corporations, that are selling relatively privileged audiences to other businesses.
That's what advertising is. It's advertising for the guys who are creating it far more than it is for the guys who are paying for it. They're trying to win awards, they're trying to make more money, they're trying to build their own portfolio, they're trying to get a better job.
They are basically becoming commodities. And you looked at what each one uses as the slogan or the motto. These things read almost absurdly like the same sentence.
Well, what point of view would you expect to come out of this? I mean, without any further assumptions, what you'd predict is that what comes out is a picture of the world, a perception of the world that satisfies the needs and the interests and the perceptions of the sellers, the buyers, and the product.
I believe that the issues confronting us cross party lines.
Well, ratification would mean a system in which there are two positions presented to me, the voter. I go into the polling booth and I push one or another button depending on which of those positions I want. That's a very limited form of democracy.
And they're trying to figure out how to differentiate themselves.
They were of both parties.
It's an interesting distinction.
This is not a partisan program.
The United States is ideologically narrower in general than other countries.
Today, 5 enormous companies are responsible for selling nearly all of youth culture.
A president of one party and a Congress of another.
Well, it means that the political system increasingly functions without public input.
When the stuff that's on TV basically functions to sell selling, to sell consumption.
That's why things go better with Coke after Coke after Coke.
And you remind your mom to buy the Tootsie Roll Pops party pack.
I can't believe you're getting engaged! Oh my gosh! You guys have to help me pick out the perfect outfit.
Purses, hats, and gloves galore, and all the gadgets gals adore.
It promotes the illusion that a man's ability to consume is directly related to his sexual virility.
Nobody ever kissed me the way you do.
Perspective centers everything on the eye of the beholder. Appearances travel in. And our tradition of art called those appearances reality.
I said, yes, she's mine.
There's no limit to what you can accomplish.
Commercials say to us,
endlessly. You come first.
Any way you want.
I didn't have to leave home.
You are the focus of attention. You matter. An army of one, you see.
Because you're worth it.
Perspective makes the eye the center of the visible world.
Its most daring feature was the proposition that the sun, not the earth, was at the center of the universe. The earth was demoted.
Maybe there's been a long line of beach
but
parties.
it annoyed an awful lot of people.
What about when you and Holmes were back at Fort Bliss?
The Catholic Church later put Copernicus's work on its list of forbidden books.
The answers turn out to have nothing to do with any personal qualities of Europeans. Yeah, Pizarro and his men were brave, but there were plenty of brave Incas. Instead, Europeans were accidental conquerors. By virtue of their geographic location in history, they were the first people to acquire guns, germs, and steel.
Any objective observer must hold a positive view of American history, a history that has been the story of hopes fulfilled and dreams made into reality.
Open the Fantasyland Castle in the name of the children of the world.
All activity on Main Street has ceased. And now, Walt Disney will step forward to read the dedication of Disneyland.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Of course, America is a romantic project. It's Paradiso, City on the Hill, and all this other mess and lies and so on. I said, no, America's a very fragile democratic experiment predicated on the dispossession of the lands of indigenous peoples and the enslavement of African peoples and the subjugation of women, the marginalization of gays and lesbians, that it has great potential, but this notion that somehow, we had it all or ever will have it all, it's got to go. You got to push it to the side. And once you push all that to the side, then it tends to evacuate the language of disappointment and the language of failure.
It was ugly, it was broad-based, it was bringing huge institutions to their knees.
Every single part of Wall Street at this point is plugged into another part of Wall Street. So if just one company goes down, in this case Lehman, it can drag everyone else with them.
Cloning is the stabilization of one form.
But no one seems to mention morality as playing a part in the subject of sex.
I remember looking through an issue of Life magazine. They had photographs of typical criminals.
Relatively few types of sexual activity that you could engage in which didn't break the law. Having sex before marriage, adultery was illegal. In some states, oral sex was illegal, even within marriage, and certainly anal sex was.
Harry, I want you to sell me a condom. In fact, today I think I'll have a French tickler, for I am a Protestant.
Well, why don't you?
But they cannot, because their church never made the great leap out of the Middle Ages.
But despite the attempts of Protestants to promote the idea of sex for pleasure, children continued to multiply everywhere.
Is all of Judeo-Christian tradition wrong? Are we to believe that something so sacred can be looked upon as a purely physical thing?
The Pope condemned 3 more glands today, bringing the total number of sinful hormone secretion ducts on the human body to 11.
And most major religions have been really bad at spirituality and sexuality. You're supposed to be spiritual on Sunday, sexual when you're in bed with your partner, your legal husband or wife, right? No one else. And yet then you're supposed to deny your sexuality in all of these other contexts. Well, it doesn't make sense.
Crumb's material comes out of a deep sense of the absurdity of human life. At a certain kind of psychic level, there aren't any heroes, there aren't any villains, there aren't any heroines, and and even the victims are comic. I think it's this which people in America find rather hard to take because it conflicts with their basic feelings, that sort of mixture of utopianism on one hand and puritanism on the other, which is only another kind of utopianism. Which has given us the kind of messy discourse that we have today.
The demand for censorship grows, and a more rigid code of standards is adopted by the studios and enforced by the Will Hayes office.
The code sets up high standards of performance for motion picture producers.
I can't resist a joyous urge to smile and say thank heaven for little girls.
For most of history, children have been asked simply to conform to the image of the adult.
For little girls, they grow up in the most delightful way.
Doing pageants since I was 3.
Without them, what would little boys do?
That love was a verse that
I don't know why.
She's in love. Oh, no, this is terrible. Why? After all, I am 16.
It isn't that, dear.
She hit the scene at 16 with Baby One More Time.
What would motivate somebody to drive 5.5 hours to come here to this house?
I don't know, sir.
Well, you gotta know. You're the one who did the driving.
A 17-year-old self-professed virgin Brittany.
I knew it was a setup.
But help me to understand it, though. If you knew it was a
I
setup...
know. Why am I here?
Where a 14-year-old boy was having a romance with his teacher.
You needed that plot line to really give it a bang.
To give it a bang.
With a taser gun. Only one probe stays attached, so the taser is unable to shock him and drop him to the ground.
I think I can range to 16 or 17.
You are 13?
Yeah.
You're 13 years old?
Yeah.
Do you suppose it's ethical even if you prove that he didn't commit a crime?
I'm not much on Rear Window ethics.
We've conducted 12 separate To Catch a Predator investigations now over the course of 3 years. And during that time, police have arrested more than 260 men.
Well, what are we going to do, Mayor? We have to stop these abductors from being able to get into our town. Rabble, 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 rabble.
Yes, but standing out here yelling rabble, rabble, rabble isn't going to help anything.
Rabble, 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 rabble.
People, what do you think we need to do?
So even after seeing our previous investigations, watching men being confronted and arrested, he wasn't discouraged from doing the very same thing. And as you'll see later, he's not the only one.
Yeah, and I've seen this on TV. You've seen this on TV before.
We're two of the most frightening ghouls I've ever known.
The study reveals that 9 out of every 10 abduction cases are committed by the child's mother or father. The bottom line being that your children aren't safe, even from you.
So, girls,
open the door for your mystery day.
the time has come. The hour has struck.
Moment of truth.
That we stand at this frontier at a turning point of history.
I am not going to do a dramatic sketch.
But Milton, there's a good part in it for you.
That's what I said. I'm going to do a dramatic sketch.
That is so superficial.
Honey, why do you like me?
What do you think I should get him?
This nation is asking for action, and action now.
A moment that will define our course and our character.
It should be.
Physics is not events, but observations. Relativity is the understanding of the world, not as events, but as relations.
This is an hour of history.
But one moment is enough.
May I have the next dance?
To change everything.
We are at a turning point.
This is the moment of your life.
You're perfect.
I am not an atomic playboy, as one of my critics labeled me, exploding these bombs to satisfy my personal whim.
Tonight, we're launching an effort which holds the promise of changing the course of human history.
This is our moment. This is our time.
Oh, taste thrill.
We must act today in order to preserve tomorrow.
Mr. Jenkins, to answer your question, let me say it's right here with us now.
This is the place, this is the time, and never forget it.
Ask the Pepsi generation.
That any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation.
In the period of our lives, you will see a red world.